Hey everybody, JJ here. Back again for another Wednesday of Zoom networking. We are right between the holidays. We are at the 28th of December. It is the last Zoom call of 2022, and no better way to lock up the year than with a powerful speaker from the young man we have speaking today. The gentleman today is out of the Pace Morby Sub 2 community, and you've heard me talk about Pace and Sub 2 many, many times. Pace and Sub 2 has the premier #1 real estate education platform in the country, bar none. The program's loaded with rock stars. We've had many of the rock stars on this Zoom call, and we're honored to have another rock star back with us today, my good friend Mario Finkbiner. Mario, how are you, my friend?
Doing really well. How are you doing? Hey, that project looks good. You're on day 3, right?
Well, day 3 of the floor prep, we're probably about, including demo, we're probably about 2-3 months in.
Gotcha.
We got about we're looking at being done in the beginning of April. The house is almost 3,800 square feet. It's a total gut from one end to the next. And the biggest project I've ever done, and I'm going to move into it. So I'm kind of excited on how it's progressing. But
Nice.
yeah, it's a lot of fun. So thank you so much for being here today, my friend.
Yes, it was a pleasure. Thank you.
Oh yeah, no, you're a rock star, but I've seen your name and your face a long time, and I say it all the time. We see people out there that are doing the deal, and I think as you guys are looking to build your network, it's important to take note of who those people are and reach out to them, send them a message, get to know them. Mario, for those that don't know you, where in the country are you located?
Well, I'm currently in Mass. I lived and reside still in New York, but I haven't been there in a long time with COVID and all that issue. So Marcia and I up here in Mass, and we're investing in from New Hampshire all the way down to New York, all the way over to California.
Wow. Now your journey into real estate, you know, is this something that you started like right out of high school, college? Did it happen later in life for you? Were you around it? Did your family do it? What was your what did you do maybe before you became a real estate investor? Unless this is something that you've been exposed to your whole life.
Yeah, I've been exposed to my aunt's uncle and that, but technically what I was I started in GC in 1980. So I was a GC. I started rooftop and really blacktopping and roofing. And my father said, if you can handle that for a year, you can do anything. So that was what I did. Then I became a Merrill Lynch trained. So that got me the estate planning. Then I went and became 15 years as an educator in math and physics for high school and college. Then
Wow. So you're not just a good, pretty face.
No, I have, it was pretty good for a guy who came to this country at 5. I came from Italy, came here at 5, spoke only Italian and wrote only lefty. The nuns changed that pretty quick on me, to put it bluntly. And then, I went from educating because I was passion because I said, oh, these educators don't teach kids. They, just make them remote. And I said, let me become an educator, 15 years. Then I switched in 1994 to the mortgage industry. So I became a mortgage banker from 1994 to 2009. And then that debacle ended that career. And then I went full-time as a real estate investor. Because I said, you're only as good as your next deal. And so I was big and passionate about buying and holding. I bought my first house in 1981. So that was my best deal.
Now, when you bought your first home, were you in New York at the time? Have you always been in New York?
Yeah, I was in New York. I came to this country on my birthday in 1965 and bought the house in 1981. I've been there and I've been back and forth for the last 6 years from here to Mass.
Good for you. So When you got into real estate investment, were you doing single family homes? Was it flipping, wholesaling? What was your
Well,
introductory journey?
I was lucky because what I did was I'm a big advocate of surrendering some of your profits to learn. As an educator myself in college, I said to myself, I can learn this with a lot of mistakes, a lot of cost, or I can say, hey, look, here's a deal. Teach me how you do it, and went from there. So that's what I did was I did a lot of joint ventures from the beginning. So I was taught how to wholesale. I was taught how to, even though I had a contracting background, how to rehab on that fix and flips. I was taught how to do, one of my specialties as a mortgage banker was land acquisition and spec houses. So I lent the money on that end. So I really had a passion for that, which is why I'm currently a developer. I take land, raw land, fully entitled, but I'll talk about that later.
So at this point in time, have you built up your own portfolio of passive income?
Yes. Yeah. That was the big thing. I remember in the 90s, I was making good money at between 90 and 120,000 in taxes. And I said, there's something wrong with that. So I learned quickly how to shelter, and I realized real estate was the path. So yeah, I have a portfolio, and again, I don't own anything, nothing under my social. I control. Big difference. You can own something, get taxed on it, get sued on it, or you can control it. And there's so much better benefits in that, or at least in my opinion.
So all your properties are in an LLC?
And trust, yeah.
Now, are all the LLCs under one holding LLC, or all the LLCs under a trust?
I'm old, so I've had it from Delaware. So every 10 years they change places, states that you should open up an entity. So again, I'm a little different than most. What I'll do is I don't open up the entity. I go to the state that I want to invest in, hire an attorney, and let them, because that, again, anonymity, it hides. So I'm not the registered person of the entity, the attorney is. So attorney suing another attorney is another shelter. And it's an old estate planning trick. So what happens is the attorney does that. I get the paralegal to do the banking for me, open up the bank. My signature is not on anything.
That's
So
excellent.
Yeah.
That is excellent. So well, let's move into your topic. I know you've got some things you want to talk about today.
Yeah.
And we're going to allow you to share your screen.
Okay.
So with no further ado, my friend, you can share your screen, and let's rock and roll.
Couple things. Why listen to me? Because again, I had a contracting background in the early 80s. I had a Merrill Lynch train, so I was doing the Merrill Lynch in the 81. Was not very enchanted with that, but I did like the idea of estate planning and that. So that was what I specialized then. Then in 1982, I became an educator for 15 years in both high school and college, mathematics and physics. That got me, and I've always passionate to educate people. Then I went from there to a mortgage banker myself in 94. I went, and my partner and I, we opened up until 2009 with the debacle. But we were mortgage bankers, so that we lend our own private money, which is one reason why I go after foreclosures, because I understand the lingo, I understand the concepts, and I understand all the players and how to make everybody work well with me and my clients. So then we went from there. Now, here's the thing that I wanted to ask you, because again, I'm into giving you some information that you can apply today and start doing it. Just curious, how many people probably know the 5 core people that touch a real estate transaction? There's 18 altogether. So let me zero in on the ones that I want you to key in on, especially with this topic, the Baker dozen ways to stop foreclosure. Would you agree there's attorneys, probably 7 of them that touch a real estate transaction, from an estate planning attorney, divorce attorney, closing attorney, escrow attorney, whatever. One of the big one is foreclosure. Not so many attorneys do that because it's contradictory if they're going to represent a closing the banks as a closing attorney, and then they foreclose and represent people in that. So that's a tough one. Another person that you always look for is what? Your GC, realtor. I love realtors in that sense. And also your mortgage guy like me who lend money. So I'm into putting money into my business partners. There's 18 of them. So when I pitch somebody and I say to them, I take your dead deals and use creative financing and other options to put money in your pocket. Would you like to join me? And if they say no, next. But here's the problem. Let's look at it from a point of view for foreclosure. Can a mortgage guy or gal, as a loan officer, lend money to a person who is in what they call, I hate the term pre-foreclosure. It's called, you're either pregnant or you're not pregnant. You're either in foreclosure or you're not in foreclosure. There's no pre-foreclosure. I'm not really sure where the logic of that. I understand, but I don't agree with it, but that's myself. So if somebody is in foreclosure, do you think the mortgage guy can lend and refinance? Aren't the hands tied up on the mortgage guy? He can't lend to somebody who has foreclosure on their credit right now, right?
Well, yeah, he's not going to want to, have more than one debt on the same person. It's going to be like, well, you already have something open, right?
Exactly. But the other thing is, as a mortgage banker, I can't lend because your credit's not worthy enough. You're showing you can't pay it right now. We don't know what the reason is, but you're high risk, so we're probably not going to lend to you. And in fact, we won't. So that was that situation. And an attorney, what does an attorney have? He only makes money when he closes the deal. So if his deal's dead because of foreclosure or whatever, can he get paid for him and his staff? And the answer is no. How about the realtor? His or her hands are tied because what happens? In foreclosure, you have a tough situation. Think about as a realtor, what are your biggest issues you got? You got the person who has a 1980 last time they rehabbed, but they think it's a 2022 standards, and it isn't. They have the hoarder. Nobody wants to come into a hoarder to buy a house as a first-time home buyer because they can't visually see that. This is how I'll show you in a couple of minutes how we come in as investors and solve that solution. The mortgage person can't lend unless you qualify for a conventional 30-year note or whatever vehicle you're using. The contractor, how many times have you dealt with contractors and they say to you, I work all day long. We used to get up, we were out on the field at 6 a.m. We work until 4. Then we go before dinner, we went and put bids in for other jobs. And how many times I've talked to fellow contractors, and they say, I put in 10 bids this week and not one person buys it. And I show them how to work with us and my team, and we put money in your pocket because we'll take over the deal. And since you brought us the lead, we'll give you the contract bid. So those are the things that happens in that. Other people, hard money guys, also don't forget about your fellow real estate investors. I'm not sure about the rest of you. Somebody wrote in the chat, I'd rather get 50% of something than 100% of nothing.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm new, I don't know about the rest of you. I did 20%. I would get 20%. The other person who's seasoned would get 80%. But you know why? Because I learned from them. They taught me. That was my only condition. If I brought you the deal as a wholesaler in the 80s, I was sure as hell. And in the 80s, I was getting $5,000 for every $50,000 I gave the end buyer. So, don't get me started, but 20,000 for, if I'm going to make on a fix and flip 40 and you're making 20, I don't care if it's my buy box. I mean, if it meets my buy box in one sense, but again, don't give me 20. You want 20 and I get 10 or 15, put 300,000 into it, Okay. So now based upon that, now we set it up. So we know, and you have a source here, the baker doesn't waste to stop foreclosure. Do you agree? If you're the solution to the attorney, the realtor, the mortgage guy, the GC, and the wholesaler, you can solve all 5 of them and even more, and I'll teach you. So let's look at the baker dozen ways to stop foreclosure. What's the biggest issue in foreclosure? What happened?
You haven't paid your bills.
Yeah, that's true. But there's most 9 out of 10 times there's a good reason for it.
Or hardship.
Talking
Some kind of
about,
hardship.
yeah, some hardship. Let's look at a couple. Okay, one hardship was you bought. My people were trained. My loan officers were trained never to lend on the higher income. We were trained to lend on the lower one. That way, we did 16,000 loans in 15 years. Not one defaulted. I'll match any mortgage company in the world with that track record. Because again, I was very careful of how we lend. We lend because it's our own money. So we were very careful about it, conservative. So, let's just give you one scenario so you know. A young lady and a couple come into my office for a mortgage. They want it. She's making 5, he's making 4. One of the biggest questions nobody was taught except my loan officers was, you ask 2 questions to the young couple. Do you plan to have kids, and do you want to stay home? If you plan on having kids, yes, you could. Let's say it's 5 and 4 discretionary. That's 9,000. You can afford an easy 3,000 monthly mortgage. But what happens is these people lend irresponsible. 5 years later, she's pregnant. Now she's going to her $5,000 dropped. Now they only have 4,000, and the mortgage still for the next 25 years still 3,000. Now they went from 9,000 down to only 1,000 discretionary. Now think about that. Second thing, with that, you just created a baby, one of the most expensive, except for a house, one of the most expensive commodities out there, right? So your extra $1,000, $700 goes toward taking care of the baby with new stuff and that. So now you're living on $300. Is that a situation ready for foreclosure? Most people didn't think about it, but that's a perfect example. So I'm passionate about resolving that person's situation. Another one, young lady with 2 kids, finds out she's in foreclosure and finds out he didn't pay. They decide to part their way and divorce. Now, does she have the income to pay off him and buy that house and support the mortgage payments on it? How many times have you had that experience and people can't, right? It was based upon the purchase of 2 incomes, not 1. So let's look at what we do here. The Baker Dozen Ways to Stop Foreclosure, it was designed by me in a specific order. This is over 11 years, this order that I did. I'll explain each one. And what I really want you to take away from and have your question after is, understand why I did it this way and understand the order. And ask me, well, my beard's white? Oh, that's probably a silly question. Why is my nose swollen? I had a car accident 10 days ago. But besides that, I'm feeling good. So, personal loan. Why would you do a personal loan? What happens when you reach out to a person in foreclosure? And what's your typical scenario you hear? I hear, and what I do is I use my alias name and I act like I'm in foreclosure. So I check out my supposedly competition, which isn't. But most people, whether they're a realtor, whether they're an attorney, whether they're a mortgage guy, a wholesaler, a general contractor, they reach out to the customer and they say, the first thing they say to them is, I can buy all cash and buy your house from you. Well, when you say that, what happens? Do you think they're receptive or do you think they're turned off by that response?
They typically 99% of them want to stay in the home. They don't want to give up the home.
Exactly. They haven't. I guess the analogy I like using is when you go to a funeral, people, or when you go to the doctors, you find out that you have a real serious illness and that you go through the stages of denial, anger, and all that. Well, if you call somebody up randomly and you say to them, hey, I'm an investor, I can buy your house all cash, boom, you didn't even ask them if they want to stay. So that's why I do that. My opening, and this is really gives me this ahead of everybody else, and people say, why are you disclosing the way you do it? Because my passion is to help 3,000 people in foreclosure next year. Obviously, with you, everybody here, and whoever listens to this. I can't do it myself alone, but I definitely can with partners. So with a personal loan, what does a personal loan do versus anybody else? Your opening sentence to them is, did you know a personal loan, if you were to borrow from your family or friends, you could stop the foreclosure procedures? And people go, really? No, I did not know that. Now, question. If you offer that as the first, do you think they're going to ghost you in your next appointment to talk to them? No, no. I usually get a good out of 100 people, we probably get 20, 21, something like that. Out of that, 12 work with me, and out of that, maybe 8, 7 or 8 close. But that's still pretty good, and it's better than I bet you'd be at 2% if you call them up and say, I want a wholesaler, and I just want to flip, buy your house for cash and flip it. What's the other issue that's problem when somebody's in foreclosure in any situation, whether going through a divorce, foreclosure, and that? What's a big one that a lot of people forget to teach?
Is it denial?
Well, besides denial, what happens? Think about it. If they're in foreclosure, they have a time clock. And I would use, that egg timer the sand thing you flipped over? That's my visual. When I go meet somebody face to face or the foreclosure person, I take that egg salt thing, flip it over, and they eventually say to me, Mario, what is that? I said, that's your time running out. There's an auction date. By the time that happens, all your options are done. So it's a good visual. I don't know if the rest of you use visuals. Sometimes when I talk to clients, it's the old school. It's the
hourglass.
There you go. There you go. Thanks, Will. So that's and it's $1. You can get it at the dollar store. It's just cheap, but it's such a powerful visual. So what I do is I tell them, did you know that if you got a personal loan, do not do anything until you come back to me and I'll guide you as a mortgage banker. I had a case 3 weeks ago. The gentleman paid his mom's $30,000 in reinstatement loan. And guess what? The bank, because he didn't know what he was doing, he applied it to the wrong thing. So the bank said, well, we just put it on the interest. And it took me a long time to fight with him. And then he finally just gave up. He said, take the house. So he just put $30,000 to help out his mom, and they applied it to the wrong place, even though they knew it. So if you don't know what you're doing, again, reach out to someone like me or anybody else who does this on a regular basis, because I have helped people if they're lucky enough. And the average person, I would say for every 10,000 cases, you got 5 maybe who have personal loan from an aunt, uncle, friend who can reinstate them. But I teach them how to do it, apply it to the right place, and I negotiate with the bank and my client to help them. Let's look at number 2. So do you agree with a personal loan? You've already started with a positive attitude. You've already offered them a way to help them. I'm into big helping, not to say I can just take your house. I'm cold. I'm just interested in your profit. I don't give a damn about what's happening to you in your life. I don't even care why you fell into foreclosure. You know that most people in foreclosure are people who went through a divorce. There are people who are elderly, who fell in hard times. There's people who lost their job. Maybe that the young man got into a car accident like I did on December 6th. I was able to walk away. What happens if I couldn't and I was disabled? That whole income disappeared. So, or the young lady, because of COVID, her job was canceled. She was fired or whatever, or they were cutting back. And because of that, now they went from 2 incomes when they bought the house, which is always dangerous. That's why I get very passionate telling loan officers, we base it upon the lower income so they get less chance of being in foreclosure. And, there could be many medical. I've had it where their daughter got seriously ill. The senior citizen, his spouse, got seriously ill. Their choice is pay the mortgage, pay the medicine, and that. Okay, so with that, based upon that, let's go on to the next avenue. Why do you think refinance? Is that a good option or not? Think about refinance. If you're in foreclosure and your credit's damaged, do you think you qualify for anybody in refinance? Cam had mentioned that before. And the answer would be no. You can't refinance because to refinance, they're looking at your credit. And your credit shows you're in default, you're in foreclosure, and that. So that's not an option. Number 3, this one drives me nuts. No disrespect to the GC, no disrespect to the realtor, but is this a sound advice to say renovate and then list? hey, you know what? You take your retirement money, the money that you could save and reinstate a mortgage. And what I want you to do is hire a contractor to rehab it, even though you have an auction date in the next 6 weeks. You think the contractor can rehab it and the realtor can sell it for the full price during that time? And the
No,
answer
it's
is
just not enough. You probably don't have enough money. Not you, but like, they probably don't have enough money and time.
exactly. What happens, I've had scenarios which really upsets me, is now the senior citizen or the person used their retirement money to live on. Now they spent 40 out of the 60,000 rehab, ran out of time, got auctioned. Now, will they ever get that 40,000 back? Do you think that was smart advice? And the
No.
realtor's trying to say, it's usually the newbies, say, hey, look, I can sell your full asking price. I can sell you that. But they don't look at it and realize that in order to do that, it's a 1980, hasn't been rehabbed since the 80s, upgraded. And now it's a 2022. And you got to go through the rehab. You got to go through the selling, listing it. And you got to go through a mortgage person to qualify that buyer. You're going to run out of time. It's never been successful. Look, number 4, listing with an agent. Now, here's the thing, listing with an agent. Why would you go to me versus listing with an agent on it? Well, here's the thing that I talk to agents, and this one you want to write down because this is a great lead. I love working with realtors because their specialty is how to sell the property. That's not my specialty. I can do it. I'm very good at it. But if a realtor brings me a deal that's in foreclosure, I tell the realtor, hey, you have 2 chops. You can try it yourself, probably not succeed, and you get paid nothing. And you didn't help the client. And I'm passionate about helping the clients. Clients are first. My partners are second. So what I tell them is, would you like to instead work with me? I'll give you a wholesale commission on the front end. We do it. We fix it up, rehab it, and then I'll give it to you, since you brought it to me, to list the deal. So you get paid twice. What do you think most realtors say to me? And they stay in the lane.
Yes, of course.
They want that. And they say, I never knew, I did not know you could do that. And I say, yes. Number 5, here's the one. I love this one. You'll like it, my analogy, rent. Rent means this. Okay, you didn't pay the mortgage. You move out, and then you bring somebody else in to rent, and you pocket that money. And I ask people all the time, who gave you that advice? And they'll tell me, and I'm like, well, do you like wearing orange? Do you look good in orange? Because if you were a mortgage guy like I was, and you read the 81 pages, which I did, not too many people do, it says right there, the bank says, you cannot rent and keep the money and do that because you're technically stealing. And that's a federal offense. This is not the little game, you took alcohol, beer can from the local, liquor store or whatever. This is some serious. Think about it. If I lend you money, a 30-year note at $300,000 and your payments are $2,200 a month, and you leave and you say, I'm not going to pay you, the bank, back, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to collect $2,500 and I'm going to keep it all. It would have made at least some sense. And I've had clients in New York do it in the late 80s where they made extra money. They moved in with their daughter or son. And guess what? They took the money and put it toward the mortgage payments. And that's how I helped them get out of foreclosure. You do that for a year, you get 122 points in your credit score going up. So next one. This is the one that drives me nuts. Number 6 was forbearance. Do you know how many people know the difference between forbearance and what they call reinstatement, or low mods, even forbearance and low mod? Anybody know the difference? All right, forbearance. The way it's done is this. I had 3 cases last week. The gentleman. Okay, one particular, I'll give you an example I negotiated. The gentleman has a more obligation of $900 a month. He fell behind for 1 year, so 900 times 12. That was what he was in arrears for. The bank solution said, okay, what we'll do is we'll do a loan mod, but it's really a forbearance. We're going to take the 900 and add on top of the 900 you're obligated to pay. So your new payments now are 1,800. I've gone in New York to people with the the judge, and said, Your Honor, if the person's already showed for 1 year he can't afford 900, how can he afford now 1,800? Does that make any sense? Is that a solution to your client's problem? And the answer should be what? No, right? How can you go and say you're doing a loan mod, a true loan mod, when you convert it from 900 a month obligation, you fell behind, you lost your job, COVID wiped out your business, and now this gentleman he works on glass on the cars. He used to go to the house. Well, during COVID, obviously his whole business, and he also had a martial arts store. So his martial arts business disappeared, and so did his ability to fix the windows. So his income went from easily paying 900 a month to no for 2 years. So obviously he fell behind. So the forbearance, just so you know, when you learn and you talk to people, if their payment doubled or went up, it's not a loan mod, it's a forbearance. Forbearance is that they take everything in arrears, divide it by 12, and make you accelerate those payments back to bring it current within the first year. That's not a loan mod. Next one, reinstatement, number 7. 7 is one of the big plays I help people understand, reinstatement. Now, I want you to think about it as put on your investor hat and put it on your solution hat. Well, let's think about it. Reinstatement. Reinstatement implies if I find out how much, there's 2 payments that you want. You want the payoff figure, the full amount, and the reinstatement to stop the foreclosure. If you did the reinstatement loan and you applied subject to or creative financing, let me ask you this question. Your typical mortgage is 300 to 400, give or take. Your typical reinstatement, the ones that are behind in foreclosure for, is roughly around 20 to 30,000. If you could come up with a way to take that 20 or 30,000 and stop the foreclosure, would that help the client stay at the house? If you could take the 30,000, 20 to 30,000 in arrears, stop the foreclosure, as soon as you reinstate it by paying that lump sum, you stop and you start the whole process again. You give them another year at least, reinstating. So would you be able to stop the foreclosure and give them time to either find a new place, time to be able to clean up their house and get ready to move? So let's just make sure, if you do the reinstatement loan, I teach you how. I will never give it to you. We pay the bank. And we have legal documents written, because when you reinstate the loan, I guess the analogy is, I don't know if any of you played with tax liens like I do. So I learned a long time ago in New York, when I paid the first year taxes, the second year taxes, you have what they call a time to recover. And I forget the word now. I can't believe I forgot it. But it's the word that they have 2 years, like in Mass. You pay the taxes, you have 6 months while you pay the taxes, you got to wait. Then you have another year of process of foreclosing on it. Redemption, there it is, and the redemption period. So I learned hard way, because I lost 3 I lost cases where the people who fell behind in taxes were able to get me back the house that I rehabbed at my nickel, and they got the house brand new, fixed up. So it's the same thing with reinstatement here. When I reinstate the loan, if that's the play we're going to go, then what happens is that's usually we sign a contract. I control the property. I control that. I improve the credit score by 122 points because I'm paying it for the next year. They get that time to get themselves together, find a new place, which I can help them with, and we go from there. So that's a big, big play, and that's a really helpful play. But again, it depends case by case. Next one, loan mod. Here's the one I do all the time. To answer the question the gentleman asked before, I do a loan mod versus a payoff balance. If I could control 20 houses by reinstating all of them and do subject to, now I own and could not own, I control 20 houses, single families. If I pay off the balance, that may be all money I can. If I had 200,000 and each reinstatement was 20 grand, do you agree I could own 10 or control 10 houses, single families, put them subject to, clean up their credit, give them time to move, help them find a new place, help them improve their credit score? Because while we're paying the mortgage still under their name, and the credit score goes up because they paid for 12 months in a row. See that nice play? While if we pay off the balance, I can only, if I only borrow private money, which is the way I do it, for 200,000, I now control 10. Maybe 200,000 will pay only one mortgage, and I control one house versus 10. I don't know about you. I'm going to control by reinstating versus paying off the balance. Now, everybody's philosophy is different. I've been doing this for a long time. I'm going to tell you what I do on the streets versus what's caught. A loan modification. The difference between number 9, a loan mod, and number 10, a short sale is two different. It's really the same group, the loss mitigation department usually, but it's running two simultaneous. A loan modification means you're taking a loan, modifying it, reducing it down to a lower payment that you can afford. Now, when I was doing it, it's not what's happening now. I'm going to give you what's happening now versus when I was doing it. I was a mortgage banker. So when somebody came into my office to refinance and they were in foreclosure, guess what I did? I helped them understand that we could do a loan modification, lower the payments. So the payments, let's just make it easy. Let's say the payments are $2,000 a month. If I could negotiate it down to $1,200 a month, that saved them $800 a month. That's a life-changing for most people, and that was something they could afford. That's a true loan modification. There's only two ways you can change a mortgage. Court-ordered, which is why they do a foreclosure procedure, because the judge makes the decision. So if the judge is ruled with me and agrees with me, then he enforces the bank and says, you have to accept this term and that. Now, here's the one mistake that people do. When I go from 2,000, I negotiate down to 1,200. How do I look good in front of the court with my client? This is another little trick you should do. This is $1 million trick a month. What do I do? Think about it. They have not paid their mortgage of 2,000 for several months or maybe years, right? I come in, negotiate, help them to get it down to 1,200, which they can't afford. What's the thing that I want to do to make us look good in the court system? What I force them to do is very simple. If I agree and they say that they can afford $1,200 a month, what am I going to do? Since they haven't been paying $2,000 for months, I make them put in an escrow account, $1,200 for 3 months in a row. Why?
Now's a track record that they could continue paying this $1,200.
Yeah. Then if we go to court, which rarely we do, but I can show that they put away. You agreed that a loan modification, they want 3 months of trial to see if you can make those payments. If the client, it takes about 90 days to negotiate with the banks anyway and get to court, especially now that they're inundated, where they were having maybe 300 cases a week. Now they're probably 1,000 cases a week. So it's taking months to get back. By that time, I had my clients put away $1,200 for 3 months in a row. So I show, Your Honor, look at this. My client not only agreed to $1,200, but proved it, because it's not by word, it's actions. They were proactive. They have 1,200 times 3, which is 3,600 away. So we're showing the bank that we're being proactive, that not only did we agree to 1,200, but we have actually put it away. Because we're saying the bank won't accept any payments until there's renegotiation or loan mod. But now they're probably going to, again, they can say no, but usually 8 out of 10 cases, with you show them the escrow 1,200 for 3 months, they're like, these people are serious because they actually put it away. So next one, short sale. What's the difference between a loan mod, which we change the terms, lower the payment, and that? Oh, one little other thing, please pay attention to this, because this is what happens. It's changed in the last 12 years. And what happens now is A true loan modification, the terms are the same. So if you were down 13 years paid, it wouldn't go up. It would stay at 17 years left of the mortgage, but the payments of 1,200 would be down to, 2,000 would be down to 1,200. Now watch what they're doing. People are so grateful. They're like, oh my God, he gave it down to 1,200, but watch what they did. Remember, you had 17 years left. Now they did a loan mod, but you see that they went back up to 30 years. So question, yes, you can afford the 1,200, but you just added another 13 years of mortgage payments at 1,200. Do you think the bank lost any money?
They actually made
Absolutely.
money.
In fact, they made more. So that's to their benefit. You got it. When your clients say, oh, I did that, ask them, talk to them, find out the pain points, find out it. Let somebody like me, you can bring me the lead, we'll negotiate, you'll listen in on with me in the training, and boom, you'll be proficient on it because you're helping a lot of people. I want 3,000 people help next year in foreclosure. Whether I train you guys, I don't care. I mean, all over the country, we can help people if you learn and be educated. So that's the thing there. Now, a short sale. Have you heard the expression underwater, upside down? Okay. Do not. I had one case the other day. The deal is this. The house is not worth more than 300,000 fully rehab. There's 100,000 estimate rehab. What I do is this is why I love working with my GCs and my realtors. The realtor gives me a CMA, cost comparative market analysis. The contractor gives me what they call a scope of work. I take those two things and negotiate with the banks and say, this house currently needs 100,000 rehab. It's only worth as is 140, but it's worth after fixed up only 300 or 310. So you're overpriced when you're telling me we have to buy it from you at 270. Who in the hell would buy it at 270 for 100,000 and be upside down 80,000? No investor, no end buyer. Even the bank, I wouldn't lend my client as a mortgage banker if I was still a mortgage banker. Why would I lend 380,000 to a house that's only be appraised at 310 fully rehab, right? So what happens in those deals? Those deals fall apart because people didn't think. Who needs to bring in the remaining 80,000 if it's 80,000 above the appraised value? The end buyer. And do you think the end buyer most of these days have 80,000 to put into? Not really. Okay.
Even if they did, they don't want to.
I hope not. And if I was the banker that they were asking me, I would say, it's going to take you almost 13 years to pay back the 80,000 that you're already above. And the market, that market since the last 103 years, something like that, has been going up 3%, and anywhere from 3 to 5. So I'll say 3% because I'm very conservative a year. Not the crazy stuff that's happened during, 2008, and not the crazy stuff that happened during, last couple months ago. But you remember something. January this year, you were able to buy a $500,000 house. That same house, you would only be lendable now for 425, maybe 375, 425. The market's changed. And if anybody wants to argue a point, be my guest. I'm not going to argue with you. I have data and the facts. But that's what happens. With a short sale now, what happens is you do it. Now, here's the problem with a short sale. When you short sale, that means you're going to negotiate the house that they want. The bank wants 270. I'm going to negotiate it down to, like, instead of 270, I'm going to probably negotiate 180 to 190. And I'm short selling it. Why? So that I have the spread to be able to make money myself and my team, but at the same time also what? Have the money from the rehab. So with that being said, what is the bad thing about the short sale process?
Takes a long time.
Yeah. Now, when I was doing it in the 80s and 90s, I was doing it in 16 days. Now it's, oh my God, how many years? Seems like years. You know, I don't know who's done a short sale quickly in the last 90 days, right? Yes, Marcia, it hurts that. And the tax implication. Perfect, Stephanie. Here's my problem with the short sale. And I was shocked when I first started doing it. I asked for a deficiency clause and I require the bank sign off on it. Then I take that and I tell my clients, record that with the registry of deeds so that it's blocked and titled and all that. Because what happens is this. Did you know that if you deficiency, let's just make an easy number, 300,000, we got it for 200,000. There's 100,000 missing. Now, remember, as a consumer, we're all consumers, taxpayers. Did the bank lose any money to that 100,000? And the answer is no, because they get to write off all 300,000. They get to who paid them that extra 100,000 that they lost? Us, the taxpayers. Us. And I guess the analogy I did was when I used to take unsecured lines of credit, let's say accumulated to 20,000 in 7 credit cards, I negotiated down to, instead of 20,000, I negotiated down to 4,000, right? And then I would tell the client, I just helped you went from 20 down to 4,000 back to get rid of all the penalties, late fees, legal fees, and all that. And instead we got it for 4,000. Now we have to make these payments and you have less than 4 months to do it. And, you know, that's the way I set it up. What's the same thing with short sale. But did you know that the person lost a house? They had to go now rent somewhere, find a place to rent. They've now settled in for a year. And now the IRS comes in and says, you lost that 100,000. You received that money. And I used to call the IRS at the beginning. I'm like, sir, you know that they lost a house. They didn't make the 100,000, the bank did. Yeah, but the bank said that they made that 100,000 spread. If they had the 100,000, they would still be in their house because they would have been able to pay the arrears, right? Yeah, you got a good point, but we're the IRS. We can do whatever the hell we want. So the bottom line was these people. So always, when you do a short sale, please, I don't care if you're a realtor, attorney, whatever, or me, well, I do. I require a deficiency clause to put in place to protect my clients. So with that, short sale. Now, here's the 11, 12, and 13 are horrific. Temporary restraining order, TRO, as they call it. Well, it's the same as if you go into a divorce. They issue usually a TRO, temporary restraining order, to the ex-spouse, right? The spouse or the ex-spouse, soon to be. And it's the same thing with the banks. A temporary restraining order. Do you remember the term forensic audit? It was about 10 years ago, 12 years ago. I know it's aging me. Do you remember that? Have you ever heard that term, forensic audit? Or have you ever heard predatory lending?
I've heard of predatory lending, but yeah, I mean,
Okay.
you know, I'm still like 4 months into this, so there's a lot I still don't know.
Okay. When I was a banker, at the end in 2006, I was started looking at stuff. I'm like, okay, you can lend by stated 100% of the loan. So a person who actually only made 1,000 could state he made 5 to 6,000, and we'd lend it. Well, guess what? We're mortgage bankers. Once we closed our office in 2009, we were responsible. 7 years later, we still have to pay back if we're irresponsible. Unlike the big banks, I mean, I'm talking about me and my partner. We were a small time bank. We still make good money, but we were a small bank. So we were responsible. By lending irresponsibly, we would get fined. The big banks didn't care because they had oodles of money. And so it's the same thing here. The temporary restraining order is blatant fraud. That means, like, I won a case, 92. I won a case. What happened was robo signing. You heard robo signing, right? Did you hear that term, robo signing?
No.
Okay. Here's the thing. The husband, at that time, they were husband and wife, married. He got arrested, was in Florida, been in prison for at least 10 years during that time. She divorced, got into a car accident, and was killed. Now, I have a death certificate of showing her in 2003. I have a incarceration letter stating that he was in prison since 1994, roughly, right? Something like that. And they did, they robo-signed. So I said, Your Honor, the robo-sign was dated in 2013. So robo-signing means that they signed for the person. And I said, well, did you go into the prison and have him sign it? No. Okay. How could the lady have signed it in 2013 when she was deceased in 1992? And the judge says, oh, that's an interesting case. We still rule in favor of the bank because they should have paid. But bottom line is, obviously, I got it overturned because I used some tough tactics. And the bottom line is, if you know what you're doing, you could do it. Well, that was predatory lending, and that was false documentation. One document out of all the documents in the closing, and they have to revisit that case, and they have to stop it. That's when they issue a temporary restraining order, because they see that. But that case, rare. You have to be really, really due diligence and good and have all the documents and review it. That's why they called it a forensic audit. Deed in lieu. Okay, how many people have heard the word deed in lieu, and do you think that's a good tactic? Well, does it ruin your credit?
Yes.
Absolutely. Deed in lieu. Deed in lieu, or sometimes you hear the term cash for keys. Deed in lieu is you deed the property back. Well, who owns the damn deed anyway? So you're not deeding it. Who owns the deed? The banks. So how are you deeding back a thing you don't own? You're paid in full when you've got, we call it in the industry PIF. PIF, the moment they do PIF, the bank will then send it, they're supposed to send it to you to record it with the registry of deeds that your house is paid in full, and you get to control the deed because now you officially own it. People falsely are told deed in lieu. And the thing about that is, when you're given the mortgage and you're starting off, do you really own that house, or are you really renting from the bank? Change your mindset. If I could teach you anything.
Renting.
You
Oh,
own it.
Yeah.
my bad.
I used to write those loans. Exactly. You know, you don't own it because you don't own the deed. Who owns the deed? The collateralization, the deed is one of the instruments to do it. The bank does. Until you pay them off, you don't own it. Right, Ty, exactly. Rented from the bank. I mean, that was the thing I educated since 94 was I was a bank. I'm like, I'm giving you $500,000. You're renting from the bank. If you renege on your terms, the agreement that you signed, these pages that your attorney hasn't explained to you, they repossess the property and take it back. So remember, you don't really own it until you own the deed, okay? Which is why you pay in full. And also deed in lieu. One thing about deed in lieu is it's considered foreclosure. You didn't get any money and you didn't do anything. You got no solution to it. And when you go out to rent and they see a BK or they see the next one, a BK, and that, do you think they're going to let you rent? No, if you're not paying a mortgage and the collateralization is the house, as a landlord, when you're renting, the only thing I can use against you was your credit. And now your credit's ruined. Do you think the landlord's going to let you move into their apartment?
No.
Probably not. Or it's going to be what would be $2,000. They're probably going to charge you because they know you're in a bad situation, $3,000. So eviction, right. Now, bankruptcy. Now I love my bankruptcy attorneys to a point. I love most of my attorneys and that. But here's the thing I want you to remember. 2001 bankruptcy laws changed, okay? You can check it yourself. We can disagree. I'm going to stick to my way because, again, I'm into protecting my clients. So first, BK, here's a question with BK. Does bankruptcy stop the foreclosure or delay the foreclosure? Put in the chat. Do you think it stops or delays? The people who said delay, exactly. Now, I want you to tell me if this is the best thing for your client. When you file bankruptcy, you make an agreement that you're going to pay it off for 60 months, whatever the payment plan is. Does any of that money, before 2001, it did, But now, does any of that 60-month payment, so let's just say you made a payment agreement of $1,000 a month. So that's $60,000 if you did it for all 5 years or 60 months. Agreed? Does that $60,000 go toward the principal of the mortgage?
No, you're just paying off the interest, right?
The interest of
paying
what?
paying towards the interest.
Of what?
The house, right?
No, not one penny of the BK goes toward the house. It stops, it delays it, postpones it, but that. Now, ask yourself, during those BK years, if you were lucky enough to do 5 years and pay $60,000, and none of the principal, none of that reduces the principal, the outstanding balance, has the bank said, you know what, don't worry about it for the next 5 years, we'll let you live there? Or have they added another 60 months or 5 years of your commitment of 2,000? Let's say the mortgage payments were 2,000. What's 60 months times 2,000? This is eye-opening. It's 120,000. You spent 60,000. They added another 120,000, and because you've been out for 5 years, there's probably another 30,000 in penalties and late fees. So by filing bankruptcy today, if you're lucky enough, and most people never go all 5 years, on a 61st month, what do?
Well, they want their money.
Well, they file foreclosure. They start the foreclosure.
Yeah.
Now, not only were you behind last time, 5 years ago, let's say today, this month, right? So in 2022, in December, you filed bankruptcy. You did it for 5 years. You spent 60,000, and you owe 200,000 already. Now it's 320,000, and you used 60,000 that ever went toward reducing any of it. So you could afford it 5 years ago for 200,000. Now you're at 320,000 plus another 30, so 350,000. You see? Yes, exactly. It's horrible. It's the worst advice on it. I will do that play if I need a little more time to go and get a loan mod. The problem when I have stopped auctions the day for next day. So in other words, 2 cases in Halloween. Halloween, they had auction date the next day. I was able to negotiate with the banks and the attorney law firm. Sometimes the law firm's easier to work with. Sometimes it's the other way around. The problem is if you don't then meet the terms and get everything done by the timeline, they just roll right over you and they foreclose on the people. Remember, when you have the auction date, there can be a sheriff's office. They can go up there, and I've seen it happen, and it's really horrific. It's bad enough you by yourself, but now if you have your spouse and your kids and you're handcuffed and removed from the premise of the property, that's devastating emotionally. So when you're dealing with foreclosure, your mindset should be, I'm here to help you. Can I help everybody? No. I've had people tell me to kick dirt and use other profanities. You know, I can't help you if you're not going to work with me. You know, people say to me, well, why are you doing it? Well, I don't get paid unless I'm successful on a loan mod. I don't get paid until you determine that you have to move. And then I like you to, it's between me and the bank. I like you to at least offer me the opportunity to buy it from you. That's how I get compensated. And I've helped cases. Again, I'm a big, passionate person. So I'm a business person, but I'm also passionate. So if a person's in foreclosure, and I'm in the process of doing 3 to 4 right now, loan mods, I won't get paid a penny, but guess what? Karma and good, I'll get a lot of that.
Chris, you are on with Mario. What's your question?
Do you have, can I get the slides to that?
Yeah, I mean, what I do is so you know, I run a foreclosure training. Every quarter I'm teaching something new.
No way. You do the whole training?
Yes. Yeah, I do. So I do foreclosures. Every quarter I'm teaching different. Yeah, I didn't want to do that until the end because I wanted JJ. But the bottom line is on Mondays from 6 to 8, you bring me the client. I negotiate with the client and I negotiate with the bank. and you earn as you learn, kind of thing.
Hell yeah.
Marcia and I teach wholesaling how to be real wholesalers, not the crappy deals, but the real deals, so we all get paid. I teach foreclosures. Next quarter, I'm going to be teaching 4 topics next year, because I want to train my wholesalers to get money on doing something that's really can make a lot of money. Foreclosures. Next, I'm doing multifamilies in the first quarter next year, and I'm going after foreclosures on that.
That's actually why I wanted those buildings that I actually asked for the expired listings.
Exactly.
I'm taking them over, my friend. I got 16 listings at 4 o'clock this morning, and I've been up just working on all this.
Chris, in answer to your question, your original question, this call is being recorded. This call is being recorded. It will be on my YouTube channel.
Hell
and you can go back and watch it 50 or 100 times if you want. And I ask you to please watch it 50 or 100 times. And you can pause it and take a screenshot and get the whole outline that he had there. As well as Mario's numbers currently on the screen. And you can connect with him through the group. And I can introduce you to him. And he's probably going to share his contact information at the end of the call.
Yep.
How amazing is this? That's great. I appreciate you even reminding me. Yes.
Chris, how do you like me now?
Again, just so the Go-Giver. It's I don't know if you can read it. That's one of our big books. One of my favorite. You got to give to the community. If I can help my clients, and I can help you help your clients, the universe is going to give us benefits. We don't have to worry about the money.
Hell yeah, it's all.
Think about JJ.
Take care of your people, the universe will take care of you.
Exactly.
Hell yeah.
Think of what JJ brings in all these guys and gals. I mean, if you looked at his YouTube, every one of them is a player. But I mean, I would subscribe. JJ, what's the other thing? That foundation that you like?
I'm actually going to be in 2023. I'm going to create my own charity foundation. But right now, what I do is I ask the people in my group that if you find value in what we're providing here, guest speakers, Zoom calls, YouTube recordings, teaching you guys how to use Facebook to build your business. I ask, how much is that worth to you? $100 a month? What would you pay for that elsewhere?
Mm-hmm.
I am asking the people in this group to donate $25 once a year to a nonprofit for underprivileged kids. There is nothing goes to me, but I'm looking to just help other people, help the kids. And
it's all for the kids.
I give a lot, as you guys know, I give a lot of my time every single week to help other people build their business.
Sweet.
And what does that do? But in this group, it makes our group stronger. It makes our community stronger, and we can go out and then help others. Cam, you are on with Mario. You got a question, or you'd like to say something?
There's more or less a open-ended question. So again, my name's Cameron Adesanya. I am a wholesaler in the Massachusetts area, specifically the Middlesex County. I just like to learn. So Mario has definitely helped me out. It was just more or less I want to learn just becoming better at underwriting. Like I use a notebook for my CRM, so I need my own CRM. Like the little things I just want to get better at so I can become a better wholesaler, a better real estate investor. That's really, just want to get better, master my craft,
Yeah. To give you one advice, Cam, every quarter for 90 days, commit to one niche.
Yep.
Find out the person. If not, I can tell you the person. JJ's got that whole YouTube.
Yep.
You got almost probably every topic possible, well, most of them in that. And I would just grab the person that JJ interviewed on that and just say, okay, let me reach out to him and say, I like to work for you and do this. So I learn. That's how I did it. I learned a lot of topics by working every 90 days with somebody or niche, whether it's tax, code violation, predatory lending, whatever. Got it? Foreclosures and that. And that's how I learned, obviously, 30 plus years.
Yeah, because like I said to you before, I just don't want to be a one-trick pony. To wholesaling is just my way to get my capital up, my foot in the door. I've been at it this is my 4th month since August. I'm on my 3rd. Hopefully this probate deal goes through and stuff like that. But yeah, I'm gonna come to you, Mario. So, I'm just still learning certain things. I want to learn like the creative finance side, the sub twos and stuff like that, the seller finance. Like I understand it, I get it, but I just want, mastery of detail, I guess I'm looking for.
Cam, I think you're going to be right on board with Mario. Obviously, I'm going to offer my assistance and suggest that you jump on with me, because there's 2 different things here. One is getting your education and loading your bullet into the gun, and the other one, what I'm going to give you, is the horse to ride into town on.
I like it.
Right. So I'm going to show you how to network. I'm going to show you how to market yourself. I'm going to show you how to be visible. I'm not going to give you the bullets for the gun. You're going to get that from Mario.
Okay.
I'm going to give you the horse to ride into town with.
This is
why don't you and I continue to connect, and we'll get you going and up to speed. Jonathan, you look like you're at the beach, brother. You are on with Mario. You had a great question in the chat. What's your question?
So what I wanted to know is this afternoon we were on a Zoom call with some other mentors, and the whole discussion started around if you're going to go and take someone out of arrears and reinstate them, and you're going to sub to it, or you're going to whatever you're going to do to it, that there are state laws that you can get in a lot of trouble with, and maybe it deals with timing, like you mentioned. Timing, 6 months, 12 months, whatever the heck it is. I just want to know, in your experience and in your pastings, what kind of situations have you run into like that you had to navigate around a law and deal with a law that would, where if you tried to sell or resell too quickly, or sell to someone who's in your family, or all this kind of nonsense, the kind of stuff that you had to watch out for not doing, so you wouldn't get in serious federal or state trouble?
Great question, Jonathan. I'm a big player of staying out of the courts, so I make sure. So the thing, when I reinstate a loan on that, if that's the right thing, because again, reinstating means that they're pretty much made up their mind they're going to move out, because eventually what you don't do, I have a policy, and I keep it. I run a loan mod and a short sale together. No matter, even if it's going to be a short sale, I have 2 cases now, it's definitely short sales. But I want to do a loan mod so that I have it documented for both the client, myself, and our team. If we did a loan mod and the bank, the client, the servicing company declined it, was that my decision or the servicing company, the bank's?
What, that you did to do the loan mod? I mean, I don't know what to let
they
you
denied
do.
it. If they declined it. When I do a short sale, I already know that the loan mod's never going to work, but I still apply for it so that the homeowner I showed them that we did our best, and we do it. So I run a loan mod right away. I'm different than other people. I will not do just a short sale. I do a loan mod so that the homeowner doesn't have a second thing saying, oh, he took advantage of me, just did a short sale and give me any option. Got it? I have it written that the loan mod was declined. So that takes that 3 months to 4 months. During that time, they have time to clean up the place. They have time then, and I help them. I also help them move. I never move somebody, whether I'm doing a fix and flip, until I find them a new place. Got it? Then if I go in front of a judge, which I haven't, but let's just say I did, the judge can see, hey, Mario and his team moved them into a new place. I either put them in one of my apartments or I call them in. I'll give you an example of what my vision for 2003 is. 250 single family subject to houses. All of them need to move. So guess what? I'm buying 20 to 50 doors in that area. And they're all going to move from their foreclosed situation, because 9 out of 10 times their foreclosure was something else, not their actions. And I move them into my apartments. And I give them, it's called the Fresh Start program. Then I give them and within 2 to 3 years, they qualify to buy one of my subject to smaller houses at lower income. And it's a win-win. So I can take you out of foreclosure today, and within 2 years to 3 years, put you into a new, smaller house and qualify for a 30-year conventional note.
Right, and that's a great thing. And what I'm my real question, however, is about what do you have to be careful not to do or to avoid? Because, for example, I would imagine that doing a low mod and a short sale, by doing them together, the bank is going to say, well, wait a minute, are you asking us to sell the house? Or are you asking us to change it? Because we're not going to give you a loan mod if you got a short sale, unless I'm wrong.
No, I'm doing the low mod first, but I know it's probably going to end up being a short sale. I guide my clients to make a realization that the bank's not going to do it. The gentleman I told you about, $900 a month, he owes less than 8 years, but he fell behind, and based upon the data and looking at it, he'll never qualify for a loan mod. But I have to still offer him because I got to do the ethical thing. I always try to do a loan mod. If I'm successful, I get paid nothing, but I get referrals. And the universe pays me back. If it doesn't, then he comes to the realization, the client comes to the realization that they got to do a short sale or something else. And remember, a short sale, you have to have the person trying to do a short sale. I knew the realtor didn't know what they were doing, right? The equity of the house is $300,000 when it's rehab. The current market value as is $150. Their obligation is owed is $103. Where would any bank short sale that? I offered him $110 to the bank because then I could justify putting some money into the gentleman's pocket. And he came to that conclusion, realizing that the loan mod's going to be declined. But I had to have it declined so that he could see it wasn't me taking advantage of him and our team. It was guiding him through the process. It's taken 4 months, and that's what happens.
Right. So where does the illegalities come in that you're avoiding?
Because I know what I'm doing. I don't know.
What are they? What are they that you're consciously avoiding? What are some of the issues? That's kind of what I was trying to get to.
Okay. Okay. Well, let's just say there's some unscrupulous people who have you sign something over and say, well, we'll fix up your house. Well, how can you fix up the house if the person's in the house? You're breaking a whole bunch of laws that way. I'll give you $50,000 or I'll sneak you in and have your amp by it. I don't do that game. I'm not playing with the banks and the IRS. You know what I mean? So I've had people say, well, could you sell it back to me and that? And the answer is no. Once you make that decision, I'll help you find a new place and start a fresh start, but no. You know what I mean? So I don't go. I don't have any legality because I don't have to, because I'm not doing anything unethical.
You know,
What
Mario,
I'm saying is, yeah.
I want to jump in. I recently had different but similar real estate goings on that went to legal proceedings. And, you know, Jonathan's asking about what are the things we need to watch out for. When we're dealing with unscrupulous people, the things we need to watch out for are beyond our imagination, you know, and that's where it comes into having a proper contract, stipulating things, you know. I call it the handgun umbrella rule. Better to have it lined up and not need it than need it and not have it.
Yep. Every case I've done in New York that I've done a low mod and then a short sale, 2 people bitched about it and said I took advantage. The judge looked at the paperwork, the documentation, and said, this guy went above and beyond. He went through, I document every time I talked to the bank with the client and I won the case. And they threw it out right away because they said, this guy's not taking advantage of you. In fact, he helped you move out and get an apartment.
Are there any timing issues with acquiring somebody's house when you get them out of arrears and sub to their mortgage?
If I go that avenue, then I want to keep them for a year because, again, I'm looking at it from a mortgage point of view. If I keep them in for a year, that gives them time to move. and it gives them the ability to show that they can make the payments and they improve their credit score. I've had many clients within 2 years after I've helped them with that decide to move on because it's too expensive for them. And guess
I
who owns
appreciate
it? Me, because I did the right thing and helped them. I got 4 cases right now where the person that they listened to was incorrect, didn't badmouth the person. I just said, there are other options that you just went over with me. I showed them. And you know what? All 4 within the last 6 months have come back to me and said, hey, Mary, you and your team, Marsha and everybody else, were really honest with me. You know what? You're the only one who didn't lie.
Okay, we've got Teddy Albers on with us. Teddy, you're on with Mario. What's your question?
Hey, I've got a couple. They're in elderly care and assisted living facility, and they own the property free and clear. They're not able to take care of themselves, dementia and what have you. Their son is appointed power of attorney. They cannot sell that property, or the assisted living care will take all the proceeds. They're paying $4,000 a month already, but they're getting $10,000 in assistance. Is there anything we can do to help?
Yeah, it's a long answer here. What I do is I implement estate planning. So I bring in a CPA and I bring in a probate attorney, and we do it. There's a look back issue. It's another course. I teach that third quarter of next year on probates. I'm really good with assisted living in that because I use 2 books. So, you know, Teddy, just to educate yourself, is The Power of Zero, because that's a tax shelter for investors and helping out the seniors. And the other book is What Would the Rockefellers Do? That book is fantastic in estate planning of that. It compares the Rockefellers to the Vanderbilts. So with those 2 books and my knowledge of that, I get senior citizens able to, I buy it for $251,000. So the $250 that's gifted to them, and then the $1,000 they're paying taxes on the $1,000. It addresses the 7-year look back. They're only taxed on that $1,000, and the rest I put into irrevocable trust. It's a little more elaborate than that. Yes, you have my number, the 914-598.
I wrote that down. Thank you.
Yeah, call me directly and I'll help you with the clients.
Thank you very much. I appreciate you.
Okay, Mario, we're about to wrap it up. I think what I'd like to do is just ask you the question I kind of ask everybody. My group's a networking group, and you're an experienced investor. Whether one is, social media is the thing now, and we're all on, networking with education groups that are using Facebook for a platform of connecting one another. Whether one's a new investor or an experienced investor, what is the importance of networking, using social media network, and maybe even joining a group like I've got? What is the value of that and the importance for the new or experienced real estate investor, in your opinion?
Great question. Validity and credibility, and also if you go with the go-giver attitude, everybody in here has a niche or a specialty that would help me or anybody else. So, you want to brand yourself. Even in my Facebook, which is years, got to be 20 years now, something like that. Whenever Facebook first opened, needs upgrading. I learned from you on that, and I have to implement it. Also, I think one of the biggest things is, as a community, we all are pretty like-minded. I don't care whether you're in sub 2, Jamil's, Pace, whatever. If you work together, we can all really solve people's problems, brand yourself, stand out, and really learn. And the only thing I ask any of you, you learn one thing from me or anything, apply it right away before you go to sleep. And then you keep doing it. You learn something new each day. And that's pretty much it. I mean, I also highly recommend, because that's what I do. A lot of times I'm training when you're doing this. So what happens is I get to go back on your YouTube and listen to the ones I wanted to hear. I mean, I don't think people really understand, JJ, that's such powerful. I mean, you got such good interviews with each person there. That's worth $1 million plus.
Thank you.
Learning. So subscribe to it. I don't know if you put it in there to subscribe. That's the first thing. If I were to do something right now, subscribe. Last thing, after you finish today, get on a quick little YouTube or instant message or whatever, and just say what you got out of JJ's class today, because that gives JJ a good credit. And I know you guys don't get it, but I spent hundreds of thousands of dollars in education over the years, and you got a wealth there in one area, and there's YouTube. Use it, learn something, apply it, and thank them. Tag them.
Thank you so much. One last thing. People want to connect with you. Should they go, you have an Instagram, you have a LinkedIn, Facebook. What's the best way for people to reach you? What do you prefer?
Yeah, I'm old school. So 914-598-7754. Discord confuses me or frustrates me. Instagram frustrates me. I did 5 years in a row of Facebook Lives for 5 years in a row.
Wow.
Ever since my dog, I haven't done it this year, but I'm going to start again Monday or first day of the next year.
Okay.
I did 5 years in a row for 2 years, for two different niches every day.
So guys, this is the man, Mario Finkbiner. Brought you a ton of friggin' knowledge. Contact me if you didn't catch his number. Watch the video again on YouTube, see what we've got going on. If you're watching the recording right now on YouTube, please like the presentation. Please put some notes there in the comments, maybe what you took away from the presentation. And look for more videos coming up on Flip Side Up with JJ on YouTube. Join my Facebook group, JJ's Mastermind Networking. It's all about networking, building your business. And check out my new webpage, jjazizin.com. Just about helping one another, learning how to network, learning how to build our base, and how to market ourselves to build our business. So on behalf of Mario and myself, I want to thank you guys for joining us. If you're on the call right now, guys, don't go away. We're going to do the breakout rooms. We're going to do some live networking. We'll even let Peggy Stevens do some docking. All right, guys. Mario, I'm ready to say off.
Thank you.
We're out of here, guys. Thank you.
Take care.